I know you're tired, frustrated, and maybe even ready to give up. Relationships have a way of pushing us to our limits, making us question whether they're even worth it. They can feel like an endless uphill battle, leaving you drained, lost, and wondering if walking away is the only option. But before you shut that door for good, ask yourself, are you sure you've seen the full picture? Have you separated temporary emotions from true clarity? In the heat of the moment, pain and frustration can cloud your judgment, making you act on impulse rather than wisdom. Once a decision is made, its ripple effects can stretch further than you ever imagined. Before you leave, before you let go of something that might be more valuable than it seems, take a step back and breathe. What if the problem isn't the relationship itself, but the way you're looking at it? A shift in perspective can change everything. It can turn dead ends into new paths, reignite what feels lost, and help you see what truly matters. Sometimes it's not about letting go, it's about seeing differently. And sometimes what feels broken isn't beyond repair. It's just waiting for a new approach. The mind plays tricks when emotions run high. It tells you that the easiest way to stop the pain is to cut ties, to walk away, to escape. But wisdom isn't found in quick exits. It's found in understanding yourself, the situation, and what truly matters in the long run. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The question isn't just whether the relationship is worth fighting for, but whether you've given yourself the chance to see it clearly beyond your emotions. So before you make a choice you might regret, watch this till the end, because I have one question for you, a question that might just change everything. And if you're ready to take control of your emotions and see things with true clarity, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another life-changing lesson. Before we dive in, drop a comment below with this affirmation: I am unshakable. Let's begin. 1. Don't burn the bridge before you cross it. Why are they thinking of giving up? Is it because the connection feels distant? Because expectations aren't being met? Or is it something deeper? It's easy to feel overwhelmed when things don't go as planned, but before making a decision that can't be undone, take a step back. What's really causing this? Is it temporary, a rough patch, a misunderstanding, or is it something fundamental, something that no amount of effort can fix? The Stoics teach us a powerful lesson: never let emotion dictate your actions. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that. How much of the pain is coming from what's actually happening, and how much is coming from the stories being told in the mind? Think about the beginning, the moments that brought them together, the laughter, the late-night conversations, the way they supported each other when no one else did. Have those moments truly disappeared, or have they been buried under stress, miscommunication, and expectations? Every relationship, like the seasons, goes through cycles. Stoicism reminds us that winter always gives way to spring. Hard times don't mean the end. They often mean growth. But let's be real, growth requires effort. Imagine they've been arguing more than usual. Every conversation feels like walking on eggshells. It's exhausting and frustrating. They start wondering if it's even worth it. But before giving up, here's a question. Have they actually communicated their feelings, or are they just hoping the other person will magically understand? Stoicism teaches that control lies in actions, not in outcomes. They can't control how the other person responds, but they can control how they approach the situation, with patience, with honesty, with clarity. Are they showing their real self, or just a version clouded by resentment? And then there's expectations. Expectations are a silent killer of relationships. Are they holding the other person to an idealized version of who they should be instead of accepting them for who they are? Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and life will flow smoothly." Think about that. The more they resist reality, the more they suffer. Maybe the issue isn't the other person failing to meet expectations. It's the expectations themselves. So, have they done everything they can to nurture the connection? Have they given space for understanding, for honesty, for patience? Or have they already made up their mind, looking for reasons to leave instead of reasons to stay? Relationships aren't about perfection. They're about two imperfect people choosing each other again and again, even when it's hard. If there's still love, still potential, then frustration isn't a reason to walk away. Fear isn't a reason to give up. Let reason guide the decision, not fleeting emotions. 2. See the forest, not just the trees. Frustration, hurt, feeling unappreciated. It's easy to let those emotions take over, making it seem like walking away is the only way out. But before making a decision that can't be undone, take a step back. What does this relationship really mean? Has it been a source of light, strength, and growth? Has this person stood by them in ways no one else has? Or is this just a rough patch, a moment of struggle that's clouding the bigger picture? Picture life 5 years from now. Will this argument, this phase, this misunderstanding still matter, or will it just be a small bump in a story worth continuing? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Some obstacles are there to be overcome, not to end the journey. Every meaningful story has conflict. Every great character faces moments that test their strength. This moment is no different. Right now, they're standing at a crossroads. How do they want the next chapter to look? Maybe lately the other person has been distant. The mind jumps to conclusions. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're pulling away. Maybe it's over. But what if that distance isn't rejection? What if it's struggle? What if they too are battling something unseen? Instead of assuming the worst, what if they approached it with the mindset of curiosity and control? They can't control the other person's thoughts or emotions, but they can control how they show up. Have they created a space where the other person feels safe to share? Have they asked, not demanded, what's on their mind? Sometimes the answer isn't fixing everything right now, but simply being present, being steady, being patient. The Stoics valued these qualities deeply. Now take a step further. Think about the role this person has played in their life. Have they been the one who made them laugh when everything felt heavy? The one who believed in them when doubt crept in? If they have, then does it make sense to let temporary emotions decide the fate of something that might be worth fighting for? Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That choice exists right now. Are they reacting out of frustration, or are they responding with intention? Stepping back doesn't mean avoiding the problem. It means seeing it for what it truly is, not what emotions twist it into. It means removing the fog of anger, disappointment, and assumptions, and looking at the raw truth. Is this truly the end? Or is this just another test, another challenge that, if faced with clarity, could lead to something deeper? Sometimes what feels like the final chapter is actually the beginning of a new one. The choice is theirs. What story will they write next? Look beyond the surface. When was the last time they truly saw the other person? Not just as someone who frustrated them, but as a human being carrying their own unseen battles. Could there be something deeper beneath their actions, something unnoticed because pain and disappointment have taken center stage? Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This isn't just a clever phrase, it's a lifeline to understanding. Imagine if they listened, not just to the words being spoken, but to the silence in between. What if the distance, the coldness, or the irritation wasn't about them at all? Maybe the other person is drowning in stress, fighting insecurities, or wrestling with fears too heavy to share. Pain can make people act in ways that don't make sense. Maybe they've pulled away not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to ask for help. It's easy to take things personally when emotions run high, but Stoicism teaches a different approach, separating what's within control from what isn't. They can't control another person's struggles, but they can control how they respond. Instead of asking, "Why are they treating me this way?" ask, "What do they need right now?" That shift in mindset changes everything. Instead of fueling resentment, it creates understanding. Instead of pulling away, it builds connection. Think about a time when someone really saw them, when someone understood their struggles without judgment. Didn't that feel like a lifeline? Now imagine being that lifeline for someone else. The act of truly seeing another person without assumptions, without ego, can change everything. Frustration can turn into clarity. Distance can turn into closeness. Walls built from miscommunication can crumble in an instant. Before giving up, before deciding that this person no longer cares, what if they led with compassion instead? What if, instead of assuming the worst, they created space for understanding? What if, instead of walking away, they chose to see beyond the surface? Maybe, just maybe, the other person isn't pushing them away. Maybe they're waiting for someone to truly see them. Don't let pride burn the bridge. Ego. It's a hard pill to swallow, but sometimes the real problem isn't the situation itself. It's pride standing in the way. Are they clinging to it because it feels safer than being vulnerable? Are they holding on to the need to be right because admitting otherwise feels like a loss? Vulnerability can feel like weakness, but what if it's actually the greatest form of strength? The Stoics believed that true power lies in mastering oneself, not in controlling others. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." So the real question is, are they letting pride or fear dictate their actions, keeping them from healing something that might still be saved? Picture standing at a crossroads in a relationship. Maybe things have grown tense. Maybe they've both said things they regret. Maybe the other person has pulled away, and it feels impossible to bridge the gap. The mind naturally goes to, if only they would change, things could work. But what if the first step isn't about changing the other person? What if the answer lies in looking inward? What can they change about their approach, their mindset, their expectations? Humbling oneself doesn't mean lowering self-worth. It means realizing that being right isn't as valuable as being connected. It means understanding that apologizing, even when they weren't entirely wrong, isn't a sign of weakness, but a mark of strength. Epictetus said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." That's the mindset of someone who values growth over ego. So the question remains, have they truly done everything in their power to bridge the gap, or have they let pride build a wall, one that only grows harder to break with time? Because sometimes all it takes is one sincere conversation, one genuine apology, one vulnerable moment to turn everything around. If there's still something worth fighting for, fight, not against the other person, but against the part of themselves that is afraid to bend. Because in the end, mastering oneself is far more powerful than winning an argument or holding on to resentment. True strength isn't found in pride, it's found in the courage to let it go. Speak or let silence destroy assumptions. The silent killer of relationships creeps in during moments of doubt, when emotions run high, or when the mind scrambles to fill in the blanks. But here's the real question. How often are those assumptions actually true? Have they taken the time to seek clarity, or have they let their imagination create a story built on fear instead of fact? Seneca once said, "If you wish to remove doubt, replace it with clarity." That's the wisdom that keeps relationships from falling apart. Before making a decision that can't be undone, pause. Have they actually asked the questions that matter? Have they expressed their fears, concerns, and hopes? And just as importantly, have they truly listened, not just waited for their turn to speak, not just nodded while their mind raced ahead to their next argument, but really listened? Because often the problem isn't the situation itself, it's the assumptions made about it. Imagine this. They feel like the other person has grown distant. The mind jumps to the worst. Maybe they've lost interest. Maybe they're pulling away. Maybe everything is falling apart. But what if the truth is entirely different? What if they're overwhelmed by stress, battling something personal, or lost in their own thoughts? They won't know unless they ask. Without that conversation, walls of misunderstanding grow taller, harder to break down. Stoicism reminds us to focus only on what's within our control. They can't control another person's thoughts, emotions, or struggles, but they can control how they approach the situation. Do they let assumptions push them toward resentment, or do they take the difficult but powerful step of honest communication? Yes, it might feel uncomfortable. Vulnerability always does. But it's through that discomfort that real understanding and sometimes even healing begins. Think about how many relationships could have been saved by one simple sentence. "I feel like there's some distance between us. Can we talk about it?" Simple, direct, powerful communication builds the bridge over the gaps that assumptions create. It's how distance is closed instead of widened. So before they walk away, before they assume they already know the truth, they need to ask themselves, have I really tried to understand, or have I just assumed? Have I replaced doubt with clarity? Because sometimes all it takes to save something valuable is the courage to lean in instead of pulling away. 6. Mirror before the window. It's easy to look outward, to assume the problem lies in the other person. But here's the real question. Is it them or is it you? Are they absolutely sure the frustration they feel is entirely because of the other person's actions, or could some of it be coming from within, unspoken expectations, unhealed wounds, fears they haven't faced? These are difficult questions, but they are the ones that bring truth, true clarity. The Stoics believed in the immense power of self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Before placing blame, the first step is to look inward. Could it be that the frustration isn't just about what the other person is doing, but about how they themselves are seeing the situation? Are past experiences shaping their expectations? Are insecurities casting shadows over the present? Take a quiet moment, breathe, and ask, have I been projecting my own struggles onto them? Maybe there's a fear of not being enough. Maybe there's an expectation that they should fill every gap in life, meet every unspoken need. These are natural human tendencies, but recognizing them is the first step toward breaking free from them. When emotions run high, the mind can play tricks, twisting neutral moments into threats, turning misunderstandings into personal attacks. But are they seeing reality or just reflections of their own fears? Imagine a cracked mirror. If someone looks into it, their reflection will appear broken, distorted, not because of who they are, but because of the condition of the mirror itself. This is how unresolved emotions work. They distort perception, making everything seem worse than it is. Now think of what happens when the mirror is cleaned and repaired. The reflection changes. Not because the person changed, but because the way they see themselves did. What if instead of giving up, they took a different path? What if they focused on understanding themselves first? What if they stopped demanding change from the other person and instead worked on the parts of themselves that still needed healing? Not because they are to blame, but because growth is the key to peace. Epictetus said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." That's the mindset of someone who chooses growth over ego. This doesn't mean they are always wrong, nor does it mean they should stay in a situation that is truly harmful. It simply means that before deciding to leave, before assuming the problem is external, they must first rule out what might be internal. Imagine the weight lifted if they realized that the frustration was never about the other person. It was about wounds they had yet to heal. How many relationships, friendships, or moments of connection could have been saved by one moment of self-awareness? This isn't about guilt or self-blame. It's about courage. The courage to stand in front of the mirror and face what's really there. To recognize that nobody is perfect, not the other person, and not themselves. Sometimes, by working on their own struggles, they inspire others to do the same. Healing is contagious. When one person grows, it creates the space for others to grow too. So, before they walk away, they need to ask themselves, have I truly seen myself in this situation? Have I taken responsibility for my part? Have I separated my fears from reality? Because the truth is, fixing what's inside will always be more powerful than trying to fix someone else. And no matter where the path leads, toward reconciliation or toward moving on, doing this inner work ensures that they carry peace with them instead of regret. 7. Strength grows in the storm. Picture a tree, a mighty oak standing tall, unshakable. It didn't grow overnight. It endured seasons of hardship, harsh winters, fierce winds, scorching summers. It swayed, bent, but never broke. Its roots ran deeper with every storm. Relationships are no different. They don't thrive in perfect conditions. They grow stronger because of the struggles they survive. So before they decide to walk away, they must ask themselves, are they letting go because it's truly time, or are they giving up because the road is rough? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Endure and persist." But patience doesn't mean tolerating endless pain. It means understanding that the best things in life take time, effort, and resilience. True strength isn't found in avoiding the storm, it's found in weathering it. Could the difficulties they face now be opportunities in disguise? Could the frustration, the distance, or the misunderstanding be moments that test not just the relationship, but their own ability to stay steady when emotions run high? Maybe the other person is pulling away, not out of rejection, but out of fear. Maybe they are uncertain, waiting to see if the bond is strong enough to withstand challenges. The mind jumps to conclusions, assumptions take over, and suddenly patience is replaced with frustration. But what if instead of reacting, they chose to pause? The Stoics called this apatheia, a calm, centered approach to life's challenges. Imagine the power of responding with understanding instead of anger, of giving space instead of demanding answers. Sometimes, patience is the very thing that allows clarity to emerge. It's easy to romanticize the beginning when everything felt effortless, when there were no doubts, no conflicts. But love isn't built in the easy moments. It's forged in the difficult ones, when two people must decide if what they share is worth fighting for. And yes, effort is exhausting. But think of that tree again. Every storm it has stood through has only made its roots grow deeper. Every hardship has strengthened its foundation. Of course, there are moments when letting go is the right choice. But before making that decision, have they truly given it their best? Have they communicated openly, not just spoken, but listened? Have they allowed both themselves and the other person the space to grow through this? Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Could this very challenge be the thing that makes the bond unbreakable? The most meaningful things in life, whether it's love, a dream, or even a tree, require time, care, and resilience to reach their full potential. So before they walk away, before they assume this is the end, they need to ask themselves, is this the storm that destroys or the storm that strengthens? Because who knows, this might just be the moment that makes them and the relationship unshakable. 8. Loosen the grip. Find your power. Frustrated, exhausted, caught in the endless cycle of trying to make someone understand, respond, care the way they should. But here's the truth. Relationships were never meant to be about control. They are about connection. And connection only thrives where there is freedom, the freedom to feel, to choose, to be. The Stoics understood this well. They taught a lesson that, if truly embraced, can change everything. Focus only on what is within your control, your actions, your thoughts, your responses. Everything else, the way another person reacts, the decisions they make, the emotions they feel, that belongs to them. Trying to control what isn't theirs to command is like trying to hold water in clenched fists. The harder they squeeze, the more it slips through their fingers. Take a step back. Think of the last time they tried to steer someone else's emotions. Maybe they sent message after message, explaining, justifying, hoping for a certain response, some reassurance, some validation. But when the reply finally came, it wasn't what they expected. Maybe it was cold, maybe it was distant, maybe it never even came at all. Suddenly, the spiral begins. What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? But the hard truth is, that response was never in their control to begin with. Now imagine a different scenario. Instead of chasing, instead of overanalyzing, instead of waiting for someone else's actions to bring them peace, they focus on what is theirs, their own mindset, their own presence, their own sense of peace. They show up calm, collected, confident, not because they're pretending to be, but because they've truly let go of the need to control. They don't stop caring, they stop forcing. And something strange happens. When they stop clinging, they create space. Space for the other person to breathe, to reflect, to see what's truly there. Sometimes that space is exactly what makes the other person realize what they might be losing. And if they don't, if they walk away, that is the hardest part to accept, but also where true strength is found. Because clinging to what is slipping away doesn't bring it back. It only tightens the grip on suffering. Seek not for things to happen as you wish. Epictetus said, "But wish for them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." Letting go of control is not giving up. It's stepping into a mindset of peace, of resilience, of power. It's trusting that whatever is meant to stay will stay. Not because it was forced, but because it was freely chosen. So the real question isn't whether they are losing someone else. The real question is, are they losing themselves in the process? Because the moment they let go of what isn't theirs to control, they gain back everything that is, and that might just change everything. 9. Don't let one storm sink the ship. Conflict has a way of making everything feel heavier than it is. When tensions rise, when words are said in frustration, when emotions take over, it can feel like the walls are closing in, like this one moment, this one fight, this one misunderstanding is enough to end everything. It's easy to think, maybe this is it, maybe we're done. But before making a decision that can't be undone, ask this: are they letting one chapter define the entire story? Marcus Aurelius said, What stands in the way becomes the way. The very challenges they face aren't just obstacles, they are opportunities, a path, not a dead end, a disagreement, a rough patch, even a painful moment. These are not proof that something is broken beyond repair. They are tests. Tests of patience, tests of understanding, tests of whether they can navigate hardship together rather than letting it pull them apart. Picture two people climbing a steep hill together. Halfway up, the ground becomes rough, the incline steeper. Frustration sets in. They could stop, turn around, decide it's too difficult, and walk away. Or they could pause, catch their breath, and figure out how to help each other through the climb. Relationships work the same way. The uphill moments reveal what they're truly made of, whether they're just in this for the easy parts or willing to push through the challenges. Maybe the other person has pulled back. Maybe words have been exchanged that can't be taken back. It's easy to focus on the hurt, easy to dwell on the frustration. But before reacting, before assuming the worst, before letting pride take control, ask, what's really at the heart of this? What are they feeling, and what can be done? Not to fix everything instantly, but to listen, to understand, to create space for healing instead of pushing further apart. The Stoics taught that control lies only in how they respond, never in the actions of others. And in relationships, this means choosing patience over impulse, choosing to hold back a cruel word in the heat of the moment, choosing to step away for a moment of clarity rather than making a choice they'll regret. Every conflict is a fork in the road. Will this be the thing that breaks them, or will this be the thing that makes them stronger? Think about what this person truly means to them, the late-night conversations, the laughter, the moments of deep trust, the small, quiet instances where they felt understood in a way no one else had ever made them feel. Does one bad day erase all the good ones? Or is this a moment to decide to weather the storm together, to learn, to grow? No one is perfect. Not them, not the other person. And maybe, just maybe, this rough patch isn't the end of something. It's the chance to build something even deeper, something that lasts. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength isn't in avoiding difficulty, it's in facing it together." So before walking away, before assuming it's over, before letting frustration make the choice, pause. Take a breath, look at the bigger picture. What stands in the way can become the way if they let it. 10. When holding on hurts more than letting go. Letting go. It sounds like an ending, like surrender, like giving up. But what if it's none of those things? What if letting go isn't about loss, but about choosing what's right for both people? The heart might whisper, "Try one more time." But deep down, there's another feeling. The weight of something that no longer feels the same. The exhaustion of giving and giving, hoping things will shift, only to find the same pain waiting on the other side. If they've been holding on out of fear, guilt, or the belief that things might change, it's time to ask the real question: is this still helping either of them grow? Seneca once said, "Sometimes we must part ways with grace." Let that sink in. Parting ways doesn't mean failure. It doesn't erase the love that was real. It doesn't mean the time spent together was wasted. It simply means they've reached a point where staying might do more harm than good. It means holding on too tightly would be preventing both people from becoming who they are meant to be. Letting go with grace is not weakness. It is courage. It is the ability to say, "I love and respect what we had, but I will not force something that no longer serves us." Imagine a bird in a cage. They care for it, feed it, give it everything it needs. But over time, the bird stops singing. It seems restless, unhappy. They have two choices: keep the cage closed, hoping it will adjust, or open the door and let it fly. If they truly love the bird, if they truly want what's best, they know the answer. Letting it go isn't proof that they cared any less. In fact, it's proof of the deepest kind of love, choosing the other's freedom over the comfort of keeping them close. The same is true for relationships. If they've tried, if they've communicated, if they've given their best, but things still feel unbalanced, then maybe the kindest choice is to walk away, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of the understanding that love in its truest form doesn't cage, it liberates. But here's the key: if they choose to leave, they must do it with dignity, not with bitterness, not with words, not with a need to prove who was right and who was wrong. Let go with kindness, respect what was shared, honor the lessons learned, even if love has changed. Respect does not have to. They cannot control how the other person feels. They cannot control the outcome. But they can control how they show up in this final moment. Choose to show up with integrity. Choose to let go with love. Choose to walk away knowing that in the end, they did what was best, not just for the other person, but for themselves too. Because letting go doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of healing, of growth, of peace, maybe even the beginning of something better, something yet to come. 11. The mark you leave behind. In the end, it all comes down to this. How do they want to be remembered? As someone who walked away at the first sign of struggle, or as someone who stood firm, gave their best, and acted with dignity no matter the outcome? Life constantly tests character, and relationships are often the greatest test of all. The Stoics remind us that control is not found in shaping others, but in shaping ourselves. They cannot dictate how another person feels, what choices they make, or how they respond, but they can control how they show up. So the real question is, are they showing up as the best version of themselves? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the essence of self-mastery. The choice isn't just about whether to stay or leave. It's about whether their actions reflect the kind of person they aspire to be. Years from now, when they look back, will they see themselves as someone who gave up too easily, or as someone who balanced strength with patience, vulnerability with self-respect? There is immense power in walking away with grace if that's what's needed. But there's also immense strength in staying and doing the work, especially when it's hard. Picture a moment of conflict, misunderstandings, frustration, emotional distance. It's tempting to shut down, walk away, protect the ego. But what would a person of true integrity do? Would they act on impulse, or would they take a breath, reflect on what truly matters, and approach the situation with clarity? A Stoic wouldn't let emotions drive their decisions. They wouldn't let impatience dictate their actions. Instead, they would seek understanding, even when it's uncomfortable. Because ultimately, this is about more than just a relationship. This is about them. The kind of person they are today shapes the kind of legacy they will leave behind. Whether they choose to stay or go, they should make sure their actions reflect their highest self. Lead with kindness, with respect, with effort. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about asking, do they deserve me? It's about asking, am I proud of the way I'm showing up? Relationships are like mirrors. They don't just reflect the other person, they reflect who we are becoming. They challenge, frustrate, and push us to our emotional limits, but they also teach patience, empathy, and the power of perspective. What's happening right now isn't just about this one situation. It's about how they choose to handle challenges in every area of life. The Stoics teach that true strength comes from self-mastery, from acting with intention instead of reacting to fleeting emotions. So before they make a decision, they need to ask themselves, have I acted with clarity? Have I listened, not just to words, but to the emotions beneath them? Have I communicated openly? Have I taken responsibility for my own role in this? These aren't easy questions, but they are necessary, because relationships, just like life, move in seasons. The moments of distance, conflict, and frustration are often the moments that force the greatest growth. But growth requires patience, effort, and above all, honesty with the other person and with themselves. At the same time, there's wisdom in knowing when holding on is more harmful than letting go. The Stoics remind us that control is an illusion. We cannot change others, only ourselves. Sometimes the greatest act of love is to let go with grace, allowing both people the space to grow into who they are meant to be. Seneca said, "Sometimes we must part ways with grace." Letting go is not failure. It is courage. It is respect for them and for oneself. As they stand at the crossroads, they must decide, how does this chapter end? Will they let frustration dictate their actions, or will they rise above it? Will they leave in anger or with dignity? Will they stay in resentment or work toward healing? The answer is theirs to choose. But whatever path they take, they must ensure it aligns with who they truly want to be. Because in the end, relationships are not about winning or losing. They are about connection, about growth, about the legacy they leave behind. The mark they leave on others will outlive any temporary emotion. Choose wisely. Choose with strength. Choose with integrity.